MG Rob back with you, and today we got a very special car coming in, and it's on its way here now. But before we gets here, I got to get the Metropolitan moved out of the way, and we're going to do a little bit of sweeping and cleaning. And once it gets here, we'll be back with you. So here is the car, 1946 MGTC, but this is a specially built one. It's a boat tail speedster that they call the S-type. We'll get it out of the trailer here and get a better look at it. He's got to be very careful inching it out because the car has no brakes currently, or at least not very good brakes. So this is the young man who built this car, my good friend, Jack Smittle. How old were you when you started this build?
Oh, I was in my 70s. I finished it in 2011, and we trailered it to Reno and won all kind of awards for a rather large MG meet. It took me 5 years. I figured in that 5 years there's probably 5,000 hours. And every once in a while I'd have to run over to the Hance manufacturing where Rob worked, and Rob, can you make this little part? Oh yeah, we'll make this little part. But there's especially in the body, some of the body work and the paint work is courtesy of Rob. Well, I hope I paid him well, but at the time it was reasonable. So, but this was a challenge and an idea that I had for many years. I admired the cars from the MG factory in the mid-30s, and there was especially a Q-type and an R-type, and the Q-type was kind of a modified MGT series, but the R-type was strictly a single-seat racing car. And maybe this is more than you want to know. Go ahead.
But basically this is a what-if car. If the factory had continued to make race cars after the war, what would it have looked like? And so he started with a TC and built his interpretation of what that would have been.
Yeah, there was the so-called insomnia crew before World War II that would do a lot of modifying on cars and in the factory facilities, but they, and as factory employees, they didn't get paid, and some of the race cars and some of the other things, but they built some beautiful cars. And I thought, well, I'll never be able to afford one of those because they're just astronomical in price.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to build my own. And that's the inspiration.
Yeah. So yeah, he started with a car that nobody would have restored. That once he power washed the body, all he did was cut the scuttle off of it, fold the rest of it up, stuffed it in a trash can, and started from scratch. So made it all. He bought half a wood kit and modified the rest of it, and he used a Morris Minor bonnet for the boat tail.
1958.
Because he simply didn't have the skills and the equipment to try to shape a boat tail, so he figured that was the next best thing for him to do. And then he tried not to use too many original parts, leave original parts go to cars that would get actually restored, so he used fiberglass rear fenders, reproduction front cycle fenders, and fiberglass front bonnet, or apron. And because it was getting modified, he didn't want to cut up an original one. So this is the final product, and we'll take a good walk around of this car a little bit later and show you more of the details. But I just wanted you to meet the man that built this car and was the inspiration behind it. And he has had a ton of fun with this car, traveling all around the country, going to all kinds of shows, and he's even been invited to Amelia Island Concourse with this car.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of notoriety with it, and it also was in Hemmings Classic Car last July, I believe, as the cover car and the center spread.
So that was exciting for us because Dave and Kim and Maxine and I were all at that show, and when Dave pulled it in, I walked across the field. I could walk better then, but and the fellow rushed over to him, and he had his notebook in his hand. He says, "What is this car? I want to see this car." And Dave said, "We want to do an article on this car." And Dave's sitting there in the car looking up at him, and it was David Conwell, one of the editors of the Hemmings Classic Car, and Matt Letwin, who was also the other Hemmings personnel with them. And Matt is now director of the Hemmings Classic Car magazine. And and David still writes a lot of articles for, but it was a treat. They took probably 500 pictures just to get a few for the publication, but it was a thrill. I've had several thrills with this car and owning it and taking it different places and explaining to them, because the usual people will walk up, even if they know MGs. What is it? That seems to be a constant comment. It's, what is this? Yeah.
So I will be working on this car in another video later. This one's just about showing you the car. And it's always an honor to work on your car. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I would have no one else but you touch it, to be honest with you. And that's the way I feel, and I think we've been friends for a long time, and I carry those thoughts and our good times together as far as the development of it, you keeping track of it, and loading it up, and take this body out to your shop, and so you could do some body work and cleaning up a little bit of some of the things that I had done, and then painting it. So without you, this would not exist.
So next we'll take a little walk around of the car and show you some of the details. All right, so quick walk around here. These are reproduction aluminum bicycle fenders. And these are actually reproduction of the racing tires from the day. And this car actually is using a TD engine rather than a TC engine, which for those of you who know about these cars, there really isn't much difference other than the numbers on them. Basically the exact same engine for the most part. And the only original sheet metal really on the car is the firewall, scuttle panel, and the bonnet sides here, and radiator grill. And I'm not sure if that was a reproduction or a re-chromed one. Don't remember. It's been a while since I've had all the complete information on this car of stuff like that. And I helped him by making these panels here. And then I made like the shock brackets and a couple of little bits for it here and there. And this is all aluminum side here. And I believe these seats are Austin Healey Sprite or early MG Midget. Because he was actually going to try to get a set off me that I had in an early Midget, but then mine were a little too rusty and he found these instead. So it's got a nice engine turn dash that was custom made for it, and then these were custom made to match what some of the earlier cars were doing. And then he actually did all this upholstery here himself in his garage. And then, like I said, these are fiberglass fenders that were modified to fit against the new body here. And this is Morris Minor bonnet. And then these side steps here are actually connecting rods with side steps from like a late 30s Ford. And then these taillights are, I believe, late 30s Ford light truck taillights. And then you got just a set of overriders here. And then it's got the, people call these different. Some people call it the fishtail, whatever, but the exhaust here, which is an actual reproduction of some of the original stuff that was used back in the day when they were building these race cars like this back in the day. And then he handmade the exhaust pipe. And then it's got a single box muffler here, which that came from England too. It's a reproduction of what was being used back in the day again. And then he tried to reproduce all the little details like the strap here and be as accurate as possible in the way it would have been done back in the day. And he was lucky enough to find these Brooklyn style windscreens with the cast aluminum lower sections, which I guess are pretty hard to find. And he ended up making himself a new friend out of that deal when he bought that. So even better. So this is the car. It's pretty cool. And of course, we're not going to test drive it right now because it has no brakes. The master cylinder has been damaged on it, and we'll get into all of that and what happened and why in the video on repairing it.